Hello there, Qckslvrslash here, and today I have a subscriber submission, and they are driving the Tier 9 British cruiser, the Neptune, and I can't say how excited I am to get to the top tier British cruisers. I just finished the the Fiji tonight, unlocked the Edinburgh, but I need to make a little more money because I'm keeping the Fiji, so I'm a few credits shy of, well, making it to the Edinburgh. But thankfully, I've got this video to help me know what I'm looking forward to. And the one thing these cruisers are great at is putting some serious damage on the board and harassing everything. I don't think there's a ship type that the British cruisers are weak against. You know, a lot of people go, oh, battleships. But if you hit the battleships in the superstructures, you're going to get good damage every volley. I know in my Fiji, I had a game earlier tonight against tier 8s. I was getting about 2,000 to 4,000 damage per volley, which when you got shells every 5 seconds, you can rip them apart. It's kind of like an Atlanta without HE in a lot of ways. So the Neptune, very similar setup to the Fiji in that she has 4 triple-barreled turrets, but she gains a few extra torpedo launchers, some better range, and more hit points. But for the most part, this British line stays pretty consistent through tier 7, 8, and 9. It is only at tier 10, the Minotaur, that really deviates from the setup of the main guns at least. And you see 1289 wasting absolutely no time there, just dumping torps into the water, because what's the worst that could happen? Well, I guess a teammate drives into them, but with no teammates in front of them, there's no way that's going to happen. And already, 1289 is slowing up, which means here comes the smoke, or at least that's what I'm guessing. That, or they're just kind of pausing, assessing the situation, and waiting to see if they get detected by a destroyer, and if they can get any of the targets in range. And that is definitely a downside to these cruisers. You know, 15 kilometers on this, 14 and a half on an upgraded Fiji, and in between on the Edinburgh. You sometimes just wish you could reach just a little farther to touch some people. Nevertheless, 1289 has got this Nagato in range, and look at those volleys. 12 shells, less than 5 seconds between each volley. And you can see when they connect, you're getting consistent amounts of damage just from those penetrations to the superstructure. Already 9,000 damage in, very respectable. And now there's the decision. Do you focus the BB or do you go for the cruiser? And in these British cruisers, I always feel if you can pick on a cruiser, you do. For one simple reason, you're going to get citadels on them, which is something you're just not going to do to the battleships unless you're point blank. And the Smioka is doing a fairly good job of maneuvering, but those volleys are looking pretty true and starting to connect, and you can see how quickly you can start to stack the damage up. There is the Tier 8 British cruiser, the Edinburgh, and I'm looking forward to driving her, but this Neptune definitely has an advantage, and it's just mild improvements to that rate of fire and the overall ship performance, the soft stats that aren't necessarily published. And 1289 is really giving, I think, a perfect demonstration of early on the best way to use these British cruisers, and that is get close enough that you're going to be able to engage targets, pop your smoke, and then just shoot at whatever you can. A lot of people are having trouble with these cruisers, and I personally don't, but I've always played an aggressive playstyle in everything. Cruisers are the exact same. So getting in close has never been a problem, and being able to slow up, pop smoke, and rely on friendly spots to keep things lit is really what you have to do. And thankfully, for 1289, he had a Fubuki, Bismarck, and a whole slew of other ships around him that were making sure those enemies stayed lit. You do have to be careful though. If you pop that smoke and you've only got one friendly near you, there is a tendency for that individual to jump straight into it with you because, hey, smoke, I'm safe, rather than stay out and spot. And I found this particularly true a couple times, at least with destroyers. They get into it and they just kind of want to turtle there, wait it out, and really the destroyer's got to be on the other side of the smoke spotting things for you. And if you've got a teammate that's doing that, you're gonna have a good game. If you don't, well, you might pop your smoke, lose sight of everything, and just basically sit there doing nothing for the duration of it. And I think that's part of where the skill cap comes from on this ship, is identifying those situations where you can deploy the smoke, know you're going to still have spots, or just put yourself in situations where you know you can put shells into the air and not have any coming back at you. So 1289 has focused in on an Iowa. Shells are starting to land, and between those two volleys, 8,000 damage to an Iowa. That is nose in nonetheless. So for anyone who thinks these British cruisers can't do damage, you're just out of your mind. And you watch these shells land, and they're just pecking away at that health. Yeah, you're never going to light a fire like so many cruisers like to do to battleships, but realistically, I find driving these British cruisers has made me kind of reappreciate AP shells to a point. They're a little different in that their arming time is shorter, but, you know, so many times I see a battleship and I just go, I'm in a cruiser, time to fire HE. And it's not the right response. And driving these has started to really help me focus on a little bit when AP is going to be effective. And it's because when AP is your only option, you get to see the kind of angles and profiles that enemy ships are giving you, where AP is going to still be effective. So now he's got a North Carolina in their sights, but decides to switch over to the Amagi. And you've always got to prioritize the target, whichever one is giving you the best thing, and any ship side on is the best thing to shoot at. And just look at that. Nearly 3 entire volleys in the air at a ship only 12 kilometers away. That almost feels like a DD to me. Looks like 1289's gotten tired of shooting at that Amagi. Switches over to the North Carolina again, who is backing up and gonna back straight into at least one of those torpedoes, taking 12,000 damage. And in my video, that's something I haven't talked about very much so far, and that's these British torps do a great amount of damage to the enemy. You only need one to connect. I know in my Fiji video the other day, I put 3 solo torps right into a Scharnhorst or Gneisenau and wiped them off the map, essentially. Which, you know, it's hard to believe that a few torps from any equal tier cruiser could wipe the battleship off the map, but it did. And being able to pick and choose where you fire those torps can be very useful. And if you want to do a widespread, you can just single fire them out into that traditional widespread. Once again, I'd just like to point out 1289's play here. They knew their smoke was going to run out, and they start backing up behind this island where they can still engage, lobbing shells over, but they're going to break detection. And even when they don't break detection, anyone who's played this knows it's a little more difficult to hit someone sitting on the other side of the island because you can't see exactly how they're positioned. Unfortunately for the targets that are spotted right now, only some of the shells are clearing the top of that island, but it doesn't, with a reload like this, you might as well just try. You know, it says these shells are going to hit, but from the looks of it, pretty much everything is clearing that island. That's something else I found. I don't know if it's the detection mechanics are just a little off, but I've had the indicator saying at least one of the barrels is obstructed, and all of them were well clear. So far this game doesn't seem hyper interesting. You know, 1289 basically drove up to B, popped smoke, started doing some shooting, moved into B, popped another smoke, continued shooting, but they've racked up 84,000 damage so far and are holding down a cap amongst the team, putting out consistent damage, and sometimes it's not the flashy play that wins the game. And maybe that's something else some of the people driving these Royal Navy cruisers are having trouble with. They're not, you know, having these big one hits with a bunch of 203s and deciding, these aren't worth it. But if you just keep shooting and you work your way up this line, I promise you these ships are worth it. I've seen some Minotaur games from a number of players in my clan that are absolutely mind-boggling. And granted, you have to have a specific kind of type of game where you're able to sit there and just consistently shoot, such as this. But if you position yourself right, you're gonna be in a situation to do so. So 1289's team, really there's no concern right now about losing this game. They have superior number of caps. They've got more ships left. A number of the enemy ships are starting to get whittled down on their health. But it doesn't mean you can let off the gas. You've got to carry through and finish off targets that are presenting themselves. And this Frederick the Great is going to be eating some shells pretty shortly that end their game. And there they are from the Tash kit. You'd be amazed how many ships I see just mail it in at this point of a match, and it completely turn around. I've been in games where you're just furiously typing in chat when you're a couple ships down, things aren't looking good, you know, it's not over, don't give up, we can come back, and you do because everyone buys into that. But if there isn't that positive force, I find the negativity of this game can really grab people. They go, oh, we're one down, time to quit. And you just see 1289 continue to put damage down as they're typing in chat with people asking them how the ship has been. 114,000 damage on the board, one torpedo, one flood that was pretty much instantly repaired, and they really haven't taken many hits. And so these British cruisers are definitely a bit of a glass cannon in that if you get hit by a big shell, it's going to do damage. But unlike other ships where armor is the mitigating factor to that damage, the mitigating factor in the British ships is your positioning. That quick acceleration, relatively good rudder shift, and decent range out of the guns, if not spectacular. And there is the first kill for 1289, and they're already 125,000 damage in, which is, well, what is that, like 3 times their own hit points? And they've only gotten their first kill with 398 shells. And it seems like a lot, but with the rate of fire 15 minutes in, it really hasn't been that much of a labor to do that kind of damage. And I can guarantee you 1289 has been enjoying this game. Any game you get to just sit there, keep firing at targets. It's a good game in the British cruisers. And we've got a Dmitry Donskoy whose name tag is running off ahead. Maybe it knows what's about to happen to him, who knows. And 1289, I'm not sure why they're not firing, but I suspect they're just trying to close, assess what that Donskoy is doing, and once they get them zeroed in, you know a broadside of a ship like that is going to eat some shells. And this is where you're really going to see the difference in the tier 9s. The Donskoy's got bigger guns, do more damage, but reload slower. And I know personally I've taken a rune on in my Fiji and won. Both of us basically went in with full health, and the rate of fire at these kind of ranges typically wins as long as you don't give your broadside in these British cruisers. You can obviously pick and choose times to do it. 1289's getting shot at from another angle as well. Granted, it's a destroyer, but just look at him rip this Donskoy apart. And once again, adding more damage and not really taking too much. There are some good hits in there, and yeah, he's lost health, but not nearly as much as that Donskoy. And he gets another kill with an Udaloy who is easily spotted and well inside a single hit range. So quick snapshot there, and connects a couple shells, but not quite enough to kill. But the Udaloy is screwed at this point. There's nowhere for them to duck into, and they run themselves aground. That spells the end of the game for them, and ends the game for everyone.
We destroyed their destroyer.
And hardly anything to complain about in that game. 389,000 credits, 8,300 experience, Dreadnought, 157,000 damage, 3 kills, the 1 torp hit, and an insane number of shells. And I can say, watching this, I cannot wait to get the Neptune for myself. But first, I have to buy the Edinburgh and grind my way through her. This is definitely some motivation for me, and I'm guessing 1289 really enjoyed this game. And as far as team placement goes, you can bet they are on the top of their team with 2,200 and some experience, and just a great performance, an example of how to drive these ships. So many people are struggling with them, and you see a lot of hate for them, and I have to disagree with most of it because I've loved the line. Their playstyle just suits me and my aggressive get in close and attack. And normally I'd have to attack without any way of hiding. Having smoke is just a bonus. And overall, thank you for this submission, 1289. I enjoyed watching it. I've enjoyed commentating it. And I hope everyone can take something away from it and maybe improve their own Royal Navy cruiser play and cruiser play in general. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this, consider giving me the thumbs up, subscribing to the channel. Both help keep me motivated to make more great videos. If you have a great replay of your own, submit it, Qckslvrslash@gmail.com, and I'd be more than ecstatic to throw it up on the channel or even just watch it and see what you guys are doing in this game. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash, and I'll have another one for you tomorrow.